Thank you, Frank. Thank you all for attending today. I appreciate your contributions to our club, not only today, but throughout the season, and look forward to continuing our conversations with you. Towards the very end of the regular season, Lululemon of Chicago sent our players and our team staff an unexpected but really nice gift. And in that gift box, they had a card where in part it said, take 1 minute to reflect on this. Where did you start? Where are you now? And where are you going? And I thought that was quite apropos for today and for the season. When we ended last year, we said that one of the key things we thought we improved upon was that the group had learned how to compete, but had not yet learned how to win. And I think this year we have started to learn how to win. And that's where we find ourselves today. And where we need to go is to consolidate that mentality, to consolidate our style of play, and to move closer and further along our path to developing a championship program. By all measures, this was a really good season. Perhaps slightly unexpected to the extreme heights that it reached at certain points, and certainly finishing third overall, I think is notable. We like the way our team played. We like the way our team comported itself on the field and in the community. But there's still much more road to travel to get to where we want to be as a club and as a team. And our commitment remains as strong as ever. Our players understand our expectations of where we want to go and what it takes to get there, and we'll work hard to fulfill those expectations, those that we carry for ourselves and those that are imposed upon us. But I think 55 points, 61 goals without the benefit of a set-piece goal is proof of how we approach the game in pursuit of the win, in pursuit of the opponent's goal, and to impose our style whenever and wherever possible. Off the field, I think the club continued to grow as well. We expanded our plays program to 20 schools and have designs to do more. We had our second highest average attendance in club history, second most sellouts in club history. So I think the markers are all positive. And again, we look forward to next season. Probably wish it came a little bit sooner than it does. And the last thing I would just say in opening remarks is to wish the remaining 4 teams the best of luck and good health throughout the rest of the playoffs.
We know you were talking with Serbia about coaching them in the World Cup. What's the situation with that?
You want me to go now first?
Well, I understood that you know, right? So this is what I'm gonna say. I haven't met with anyone. I haven't talked to anyone from the Serbian Federation. I did go to Serbia for a different purpose, professional scouting trip, and to see my family. But I also went to Europe, other countries, to see more scouting, do more scouting, and that's all I can say. What I can also say is that I'm very happy, and when we came here, we said that we are in a process. We are going to build a championship program, and I'm very happy actually with the progress we had. Like Nelson said, the consolidation of this project and of our style and the way we played and the mentality. I think that's something that I'm looking ahead to forge next year and that's all. I'm very very happy to be here, and that's all about the rumors that you heard and the things that we're talking about me talking or negotiating or meeting. I haven't met. Once again, I haven't met with anyone. Neither spoke with anyone from the Serbian national team.
For Nelson, along the same lines, has anyone from the Serbian FA contacted you about approaching Paunovic?
Shouldn't believe all you read.
Pano, was that something you would have had interest in, or just the possibility of coaching Serbia at some point in your career? Is it something you want to do?
Well, this is what I always said, and I'm gonna always repeat. I'm always focused on what I'm doing now, and my purpose is when we came here again is to build a team that will be a championship team, that will win championships, and that will resonate in the soccer in the United States, with the style, with the mentality and everything. And I focus all my energy and my mind only on that. So I think I have still a lot of things to do here, and I'm looking ahead to the next season as a great opportunity for all of us to improve, for me too as a coach, and to fulfill my personal goal, but the same goal that we all together share, which is to have Chicago Fire being one of the best teams or the best team in the United States, and have the represent the football, the soccer, in parentheses, of the United States around the world also, because I think we proved this year that we can go further than expected, that we can be the team that is followed by masses around the world, and just because we did our job well. And it's with all that, I think it comes the holistic approach we had, starting from very bottom and lifting the team to the highest levels of the soccer in the United States. And when you get there, just when you become big enough for your environment, then you obviously, the people around the world are fixing their attention to you. And I think that's what happened to our team, and that's the contribution that I want to keep doing and giving. And as I said, in the future, I don't know what is going to come. I'm just focusing on what I have now, and what I have now is Chicago Fire, huge desire to get better and to win. I want to see our team at the top of the league. I want to see our team as soon as possible. Obviously, next season I want to see our team lifting the trophy. That's all I have to say.
Last off season, you guys made a lot of moves for veterans to help you improve in that way. You also dealt with some injuries down the stretch. Do you feel like there's any need to get younger as you look towards this next year? Is that a focus, or what do you see as the focus this off season?
It's always to get better. It's not a question of younger or older. It's just to get better. Our decisions are always predicated on how do we improve. For sure, we added some experience, and with experience, naturally, usually comes age. But we still had a lot of very young contributors. Brandon and Jonathan are still only in their second year, just finished. Matt only finished his third year. Georgi Mihalovic showed well and grew as a player, and is still very young. Drew Connor only in his second year started to contribute more minutes. And some of the other guys we have are still very much in their peak years. David Ackham, Louis Solignac are not even 30 years old yet. Johan is still very young. So for us, the focus is what do we think the team needs to improve, and then how do we go about making those improvements while trying to retain a core. You know, as I've said in the past, I think the teams that have had sustained success in Major League Soccer are those teams that have had a core group of players that have stayed together. And look, the last game of the season, I think, was representative in a lot of ways of that. You know, that Red Bulls team, that core had still been together a long time. They added some new pieces as well, but there's still no substitute for experience as a group.
Nelson, you've got a lot of decisions to make on current players, whether to pick up contract options. Where are you in that process?
We're still discussing. We follow the rules, and the rules allow us not to have to make that decision until late November, early December, first day of December. So we won't. We'll take our time in doing that. We'll explore internal options and options that may present themselves from the international market.
Nelson, Pauno. Last couple of years, you say you're not looking for a nationality to add into the roster, but a good player. Knowing that Carlos Vela is coming next year, and both brothers, Giovanni and Jonathan Dos Santos, are coming to the MLS, did you have any thoughts or adding any Spanish player coming to the Chicago Fire?
No, it's not about Spanish players. It's not about Portuguese players. It's not about Canadian players. It's about good players. So I said this to a fan group at the end of 2015, where some fans were saying, "Will you bring a Hispanic player?" And I said, "Listen to me very carefully. No." I said, "We'll only bring who we think are good players." And we've brought Michael DeLeo, who, quite frankly, nobody knew, and now he is one of our fan favorites. We brought Johan Kapelov, who nobody knew, and is now one of our fan favorites. It's about playing good football. It's about playing winning football. It's about building a team that represents this city. You know, there's a certain characteristic that we look for in our players and in our style. You know, I've started to coin the phrase, this gritty elegance, you know, that I think is representative of what Chicago is. And so all of our attention will be on bringing men of character and players who fit the style of play that we aim to have, not based on any nationality or age.
Nelson, you've talked in the past about kind of having a 3-year plan as far as, you know, when you came in and the changes that you made, and then, you know, going forward. Where do you think the team is in that 3-year plan? Do you think you're on schedule, ahead of schedule, behind? Where do you think you're at in that?
Look, the plan has always been around, we thought it would take 3 years to get the foundation of what we call a championship program in place. I would say we're on schedule. It's an inexact science. For sure, we didn't necessarily foresee the ability to bring influential players like Dax and Bastian and Juni in all in the second year. You know, in our mind's eye, some of that would have taken place this off season. So in that sense, perhaps it's a bit accelerated. But there's still a lot of work that needs to be done on the mentality of the group, on the mentality that we seek. You know, Pano and I have talked about we're using some consolidating our success this year into the future. I think those would be better markers of how close we are to having that championship program. And broadly, as a reminder, that's contending for titles and then ultimately winning trophies, because we're in a results-driven business, and that's the only result that truly matters.
Where are you in discussions with Bastian Schweinsteiger about next year, and when do you expect to have a resolution on his status?
Our conversations, I would characterize, are going very well, very positively. We remain optimistic that Basti and we will reach a mutually satisfactory agreement and that he'll return. I won't put a timeline on it. I think Basti has proven his importance to our club and to our team, and that remains a priority to bring him back.
Yes. Professional, I want to ask you, how will affect the Chicago Fire by the men's national team not to qualify to the World Cup?
Unfortunately for Dax, it's better for us, in the sense that we won't lose Dax for a long period of time. So selfishly, we'll have one of our better players for the whole season. We would rather that the United States have qualified. We would rather that Dax have had the opportunity to play in a World Cup. We take pride as a club in having our players represent their national sides and having that experience. And in large part, that comes from I'm sitting next to a world champion who has great appreciation of how hard that is and what an amazing achievement it would be. So in simplistic terms, there's a direct benefit to us. In global terms, we would have much preferred for a different result.
Pauno, it's 2 years in the job. What do you think you've learned about coaching and about this job so far?
Well, you always learn. You learn about yourself. You obviously learn what you have to learn on the field about your players, about your team. You learn about the league, about the other teams. You become more specific. You become more experienced, obviously, and that helps you overall to get the best possible conclusions, so you can make better decisions in the future. And I think these 2 years were very, very helpful for me. And as I grow as a coach and as a person, I also feel like everyone in the locker room and my staff does the same. I think we are getting better, and that's my goal. That's my life. Motivation is to get better every single day, and in my job and as a person also. So I think I'm very happy that I'm here and that I have this opportunity and experience to do that. But obviously, being more specific as a coach, I think I learned how to get the guys do what they can do best, and how to believe in what they actually are capable of, and forge the mentality of the winners. That's something that I'm getting better, I would say. I still have to figure out more things, but these are kind of experiences, especially like in most of the games we had this year, are very helpful.
If you'll allow me, and at the expense of perhaps embarrassing Pauno and the staff, I think they've done a great job. And I give Pauno and the staff a lot of credit. First, he doesn't just talk about wanting to learn and improve. He actively works at it, and I think the entire staff does. And I think it's important to reflect for a moment. Guys have had career years under this coaching staff. Matt Lampson had his best year of his career under this coaching staff. David Acom had the best year of his career anywhere under this coaching staff. Luis Solignac, certainly within MLS, has had the best year of his career with this coaching staff. Arturo Alvarez, again, certainly within MLS, had his best years and year under this coaching staff. I don't think that's an accident. I think that's a product of the dedication and the work that this staff puts in. And I think it's also a reflection of how much they deeply care about the individuals as people and as players as much as they do about the team.
Mono, what positions would you like to see the team improve at during the off-season?
Well, I would say we have to have the different approach, but just being but having the simple view of the team as the positions of the team. I think there are many factors that we have to consider before we can say that. I think the overall thing is that we have to, when the guys come back, the guys that will come back next year, we have to see how they came back actually. So I'm going to explain this. Right now we are in off season, where we'll give the guys the plan that we want them to do, and we are not allowed to be next to them and coach them and do all that stuff. So the guys that we decide to come back, they have to come back better than they left in certain aspects of the individual approach of their talent or talents that they have, mentally, physically, overall, tactically and technically. That's the plan that we are going to give our guys. So the guys who come back, we will evaluate obviously in the preseason, and then we still have time also to see, did they improve? If they improved, perfect. Then we don't have to make any changes, especially if they improved considerably and that we consider that that's good enough. But if not, then we'll have to go to the plan B, which is actually what we are doing now. The off season, when we are scouting, looking, we obviously did a lot of job in the past, but we want our guys also to take the part in their improvement, in their responsibility with the team. So when they come back, they really understand why this off season is also beneficial for them too, and it's to improve. They can improve.
Does that mean you don't think the team should sign any new players until preseason starts?
No, definitely no. But I'm trying to send the message to the guys that I have. And what I think it's more, I want to give the guys the chance to believe that they can, not giving the message to the guys that whatever you do now, it doesn't matter because we're going to sign somebody. But we are obviously, we know how is this sport, and we have to be ready for everything. And we do have, which I'm not going to share obviously right now, but we do have targets. And we did, like we always, the first year we did in off season, we are in that process now where we are going more specific and more towards the what we need for the next season. But I definitely think that we have to give the chance to everyone.
This is for either of you. Looking at 2017 as a whole, the team was considerably different before the Gold Cup break and after the Gold Cup break. What do you attribute that to, and do you think it's kind of going back to that mentality thing, or I think the Fire won one game against a playoff level team in the second half of the season. Is there something specific you attribute that to, or is that more of that mentality that you're talking about that you're trying to develop?
I think we both answer, but I'll start. I think the first thing I'd say is I do bristle a little bit that an 11-game unbeaten run seems to be discounted by virtue of when it occurs in the season. It doesn't happen often. It's a third of the year. It's a good body of work. I bristle a little bit when there's a suggestion that we backed into the playoffs. I don't know why games in March count less than games in October. Last time I checked, there are 3 points all the way around. I think it would be too simplistic and too easy of an excuse to say injuries. I think we have to review how we handled the Gold Cup break, and that's part of our agenda, and see what we can learn to improve on our side, so that we can have the players maintain that form. And so And I think there's always a lot of factors that go into it. A lot of factors into a skid, or a lot of factors into a run. What I believe is, at no time were we an opponent that teams wanted to play. I think one of the big achievements of this group was teams now know they're in for a game with Chicago Fire, and we've earned that respect. We need to diversify a little bit, both in our talent acquisition, so that we can be as adaptable as Pano needs. That falls on me to give him some more pieces. But even in the second half of the year, where we didn't match an 11-game unbeaten streak, there were still lots of good moments. You know, the first game after the break, if I'm not mistaken, was New York City, and we lost that game. We lost that game against 10 men, but you know, we peppered their goal, and that game could easily have been a draw or even a win for us. We played at Sporting Kansas City and lost the 1-goal game there, where again, late in the game, we were on them, and for a good few moments of the first half, at least by my recollection, in my opinion, we were playing our way, but the result didn't go our way. Rightfully noted, two good teams, two good playoff teams, and need to beat the best to be the best. That just speaks to the improvements we need to make. But I hope it doesn't fully tarnish or diminish. We did a lot of good stuff this year. It's incomplete. It's not enough. But there's still a lot of good stuff there.
In my opinion, we have to understand that this is a long season. Obviously, it's not for any team. It's not easy to prepare and target which part of the season you're going to be the best you can be. When we started this season, we had a sense of urgency, and obviously we targeted to have the first part of the season the best we can, so we can create what we created, the confidence, the trust from our fans, and the people to just be on the same page as us. And then in that point, it's difficult to keep the same pace for any team in the world. The injuries came. The guys who stepped in were capable of carrying through the rest of the season and get to the playoffs, which was our main goal. Get to the playoffs very soon, very on time, I would say, on time, so we didn't have the pressure in the last games of the season where we are not experienced. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that the planification, or the temporization of our season was perfect, given the circumstances we had, given the experience we had, and given the roster we had. And in that way, I think the guys did great, even mentally, because it wasn't easy. And yes, our injuries were more of the mechanical injuries, and the guys were unlucky in some of the tackles. They suffered, so they got injured. But that's because the guys pushed until their limits and beyond. And I think that's something that I'm very grateful for from our guys, from our locker room. They understood how important for us is to get to the playoffs and have the promising, I would just say, just promising for the future season like we had this year. And we look forward to add more of that and what we have to get better in that.
Do you think the injury to Michael DeLue happening when it did in the season, how impactful was that? And do you think that if he doesn't get injured, the playoffs maybe unfold a little bit differently for you?
Well, it's difficult to know, I think. It's difficult to know that. Definitely what happened, and you remember right here in this same place, we were very impacted by his injury. Myself and the whole organization, obviously the team. So maybe we should have handle it in a different way, so we could kind of channelize that in a different way. But it's just human. It's just human reaction. And Michael is loved by everyone in the locker room, and he on the field, that's off the field, but on the field he also puts his best always, his quality, his mentality, character, leadership. He's a winner. He wanted to win, and that piece maybe we missed. But I cannot say that whoever stepped in his place didn't give his best. So that's also important.
Nelson, it's very possible that Michael and Georgie will miss a couple months of the season next year. How do you take that into account this year? How does that affect your decision making?
It does affect it quite a lot, actually. You know, we for a while had believed, you know, we have good depth, we have emerging talent in the attacking side. You know, we could maybe disproportionately focus our attention in other areas, other lines of play. But you know, we have to be realistic. They each could miss a large portion of the season, and so we have to reconsider our initial thoughts and revise our plan a little bit. For sure now, I think we'll need to look to add some attacking piece, because that's a lot of minutes that we planned on that will need to be filled.
You know, at the other end, goalkeeper is a position where, you know, you had some going back and forth between two keepers there at the end. Do you feel happy with the goalkeeper situation the way it is now, or will you be looking to?
That's part of
that?
the analysis we still need to make. You know, again, I've mentioned, I think Matt had his best season. Richard, to his credit, integrated into the group very easily and very swiftly. We've been impressed by his work, by his attitude, by his talent. Stefan is still a very young goalkeeper with a lot of promise and a good attitude. And we'll see how Jorge continues to recover from his injury. But like every other line in the team, John, we'll do our analysis now. It's a little later than we did last year because we played a little longer and then wanted to jump into some scouting. But that's on our agenda for our meetings next week.
Come on, guys. Come on. Something else. Come on.
I mean, I'll go again. You know, David had a period in the year where, you know, he seemed like he wanted to leave, and like you said, it was also a great year for him, and it seemed like things smoothed out and settled down, and the playoff run will do that. But do you expect him to be with the team next year? Do you think that, you know, that is a situation where he would still like to leave, or do you anticipate keeping him around for another year?
I can't speak to what David's motivations will be. You know, I want to recognize that David played through some injury towards the end of the year, which clearly hampered his play. He had corrective surgery yesterday, as an aside. He had a sports hernia that was handled, and then he also had, forgive me, I'm a layman, a regular hernia on the other side. That medical procedure went very well, and the expectation is that he'll be back to full training before the end of December. But I think that will help David a great deal. But, you know, I've said this in the past, no player is untouchable. In my lifetime, Wayne Gretzky was one of the great athletes in all sports, and he got traded. So anything is possible, but David has proven to be an important part of the team. And in our best moments, David was central to that.
Nelson, you mentioned the lack of set-piece goals. How do you address that this offseason?
Well, I think we have to review all aspects of that. You know, how we coach that, how we manage that. I think it speaks to still some needs in the roster. You know, we don't have great size in the attack, and so even late in games when may need a different option from the one we have. We probably have to look at that. We have to look at the delivery of the ball, and we have to look at our own creativity and the design and execution of set pieces. But to me, it's amazing that we would have 61 goals, third in the league, and not one from a set piece. So it also gives me reason for optimism. I don't think that will be the case next year, and so hopefully our goal total, goal differential improves.
We'll be better. We'll be better, definitely.
Pauno, how did the lack of set-piece goals affect your game planning this season?
Well, knowing what we know, that statistically that's a very important part of the game, we should have gotten more, definitely more, and we would probably win more. And we would probably have a different conversation now. Maybe probably we didn't have the conversation. We would be still in playoffs. But what I'm trying to say is that that's the second year, and as we have to improve in everything, me first, but everyone and everything has to improve. So that's the part that it's easy to see, and that's the part that we are in this off season. Obviously, we will have to approach in a way where we can improve our qualities. Either, like I said, the guys who were responsible for that part working on that, and in the preseason when they come back, we can just improve it, or either bringing pieces that can help us with that. So that would be the plan. But definitely, that's something easy to measure and something not easy to improve, but we know what we have to do.
With regards to the homegrown players, now that the season's over, what is the long-term, or the vision next year for guys like Fernandez, Calistri, Duty, Connor, and with Cam Lindley being named ACC Midfielder of the Year, does that sort of expedite your expectations for him next year as a homegrown, or does that change his status?
Regarding the guys who are currently under contract, that'll all be part of the analysis that we do next week as a staff, and start to formulate our game plan going forward. Their complete status isn't fully affected by homegrown players who are in college now, but there could be some impact just for sheer numbers to keep homegrown status and the roster protection that it affords. Our view with the players that are in college is pretty simple. They belong at this time to their respective universities, and we respect that. So we have chosen, we don't speak to the players during their collegiate season. We think that would be disrespectful to the program that they're in. We think it could be a distraction to them. A lot of the guys that we have are part of very successful programs that are either still competing for their conference championship or surely will be in the NCAA tournament. We are in touch with the coaches on a regular basis to receive their input and feedback on these players. And then once their respective seasons are over, and once their final exams are over, because they are student athletes, and we want to respect that as well, we'll then have a conversation with them. And the biggest part of that conversation for us, Guillermo, is what do they want? We don't pressure young men. If they feel that the experience that they're getting being in an intercollegiate environment is best for them or best for them at this time, we'll respect that and support them. This past summer we had guys in like Andrew Gutman and Grant Lillard who trained with us, even though we knew they were going back to Indiana. So we'll continue to operate that way. But if a player indicates to us that they are prepared to have a pro lifestyle, a soccer, football lifestyle, then we'll evaluate that and see if it makes sense.
Just off-field question for you, Nelson. End of October, Chicago Tribune had a report regarding Amazon coming to Chicago and Sterling Bay's potential involvement with the Amazon headquarters that featured a stadium. mentioned that had some discussion with professional leagues. There was some speculation about a potential soccer stadium in that environment. Has the Fire or MLS had any discussions with Sterling Bay and the city about a potential relocation as part of the Amazon program?
I can't speak about MLS. I don't know if they have or have not. I have not. I haven't spoken, been approached by anyone. I'm not sure I would be the person that they approach or speak to, but I'm not aware of any conversations.
I know you've kind of hinted at this already, but so none of the players, or some of the players that are uncertain futures, did any of them know if they're going to be back or not yet? Or is that something they're
No,
still
we've
waiting on
not.
as well?
I do exit interviews with every player. I'm about halfway through, so we'll look to finish the whole team by the end of this week. But as I mentioned earlier, we won't communicate our decisions or even take our decisions until the deadline.
For Nelson, just to follow up on Guillermo's question, there is a RFP out to manage this stadium, and like you said, you may not be the person that they would talk to, but do you know if the Fire have any interest in being the people who manage their own stadium and managing Toyota Park?
The way the RFP was drafted and distributed disqualified us from even enabling us to ask for consideration.
In what way?
I think the requirements that they laid out for consideration, we could not meet those. Specifically, I think it spoke to years of management experience of other stadiums or venues.
Nelson, I think we already asked Pauno how he's grown in the job. How have you? What have you learned in your 2 years as general manager?
Last year, I mentioned one of the key learnings for me was when you can close a deal, close it, because they're hard. They're hard to get over the line. I think two things that I've learned relative, I think, to what I do on a daily basis is managing expectations. A fan used an interesting phrase. He approached me on the street. I had attended a Cubs game. I was walking back, and he saw me, and he said, "Thank you for the champagne football," which was nice to hear. But Pauno mentioned, it's a long season. This is a very difficult league, very difficult. There are no easy games in this league. There's never a time where you can circle a match date and say, we are definitely going to win that. And so I think learning how to manage expectations internally, externally, become more important for me because I need to help set the narrative. I'll always try to do so in a transparent and honest fashion, but that would be one key learning that I think I take away this year. I'll also be honest, the sting of the ending hasn't left me yet. So we've tried to busy ourselves with scouting and recruitment and other activity, but I think I still might need that turkey dinner to have me really turn the page on this season.
Again, for either of you, last year you talked about one of the tangible goals that you had was making the playoffs. You wanted to make the playoffs, make this a playoff team. Obviously, you've talked about the 3-year plan and making this a championship side. What tangible goals have you guys set for 2018?
We haven't discussed it or said it, and I think progress is always going to be a tricky thing to measure. Look, I've said it in the past, I've said it earlier today, it's a results-driven business. And your record, you are what your record says you are. And you're ultimately measured by the medals you win. So we understand that. Progress isn't always linear. At the end of last year, we had the exact same record total as the year before, but I thought we were better as a team, better as an organization, better as a club. But there was nothing tangible to point to. This year, I think we could tangibly point to some things. Could we be better next year, but not finish third overall in the league? Yeah, I think that's possible. But I think, again, as a low bar, we've got to get back to the playoffs. For sure, winning the Open Cup will always remain a goal, and we will always compete at the highest possible way to win that trophy. It's meaningful to this club. It's meaningful to us. It's meaningful to the players in the locker room. I think we'll set those goals in the off season, individually, collectively, and also as an organization. But as a starting point, Open Cup is non-negotiable. Playoffs, it's non-negotiable.
Can you both fill us in on your schedule for the off-season, where you plan to travel to look at players, that kind of thing?
Wherever the good players take us. No, seriously, it'll be similar to last year. We canvassed a lot of the world. We'll go back to Europe. We'll go back to South America, to several countries. I don't yet have, Mexico's not there yet. We don't have a target in Mexico at the present moment. And obviously, at this point of time, we'll spread our network out to the collegiate games as well. The draft, in my mind, still is an important factor and pipeline of players. We've done pretty well, I think, with our selections in the 2 years, and so we need to continue to look at that and be prepared for that as well. We'll be busy.
South America and Europe, definitely. And we'll see what comes on our way.
Oh, actually, I'm sorry, and Australia, for sure. Yeah, I've been invited by a group there. They're organizing a very specific scouting and recruitment opportunity. So I'm excited by that.
With MLS still hasn't established any additional targeted allocation money for next year, as far as I understand.
That's true.
Budget-wise, no, you still have player decisions to make. Do you feel that you'll be in a position, if the opportunity arises, to add a maximum level player, DP type player, if that comes up this offseason?
Well, if we re-sign Basti, we would have 3 DPs. So there's no other DP solution at the moment. We have not been given those budgets and those allocation amounts yet, which is challenging. Now everyone's in the same situation, so I'm not crying here, or maybe I'm crying for all of us that we'd like to have that information. But we recognize there's the art of this offseason will be that delicate balance. We know we need to improve. We know we like our core, but change is inevitable. You can't have both. We can't fully retain this group and add pieces. And the more significant by salary budget charge piece that you add, the more difficult it becomes, or the more consequence it has, either on the depth of the roster or towards the top end of the roster.
You mentioned the injuries to Deliu and Mihailovic kind of redirecting your approach this offseason, maybe looking for another attacking player. It's fair to say center back would be another position you'd be looking at.
Look, we had thought we had addressed the depth and the competition with Christian Dean, and then he suffered that unfortunate injury, and we won't really know where Christian is until preseason. He's a good young man. I know he's working hard. But we have to, and we are prepared along all the lines: the goalkeeper, the back line, the midfield line, and now we've got to reinsert the forward line into that conversation. And it's a puzzle that's liquid, and so it shifts and moves at all times. But I think we know we need to improve along all the lines. whether that's in a projected 11 or in the projected 20.
For Pano, you were one of the finalists for Coach of the Year, and that award still hasn't been announced yet. Did that provide any significance for you? Were you proud to be a part of that final three in the Coach of the Year award?
Well, definitely I'm very grateful for that nomination, but I really just look towards doing my best and always giving everything I have in my profession and in everyday's relations with the people, and so that's all I can say. But very grateful for that nomination, and I mean nothing else. I actually don't have anything.
If I could put in a shameless plug, I'm proud that the club was nominated for the Fair Play Award. You know, to my knowledge, we're the only club in 2 years who has not made any public commentary on officials and officiating decisions. We have never been warned or sanctioned for mass confrontation, and we continue to work hard to ensure that we don't engage in the dark arts. We don't embellish and simulate. Again, we want to reflect the citizens of Chicago. We play hard, and we play fair. And I'm proud of Pano. I'm proud of the staff for living up to that. I'm proud of the guys for being willing to live and play that way as well.
I know he's off on international duty, but do you think that you will field offers for Nemanja? A guy who wins the Golden Boot everywhere he goes. Is it going to be hard to retain someone like that?
Well, we have him under contract for 2 more years, so that's a good thing. I can't say for certain, but I would not be surprised if teams from around the world came. It's the hardest thing to do in soccer. Is find the back of the net. And he continues to prove time and time again, no matter circumstance or place, he has that gift. I would also just take this moment to say, about Nemanja. He's a good teammate. He's a real good teammate, and he works hard. He works hard on and off the field, and so it's also no surprise that he continues to have success because he works at it.
And then, this I've sort of realized it's runs through a lot of our questions with, is it being hard to keep Pano or keep Nico? Is that something that you welcome with success? Is that it's going to be the people you bring in are going to be wanted?
I appreciate that question, and I do. I think that's a sign of a healthy club. I think that's a sign of what we want to build in our jobs is to make the Chicago Fire a club of choice, a club of preference. And just as we take great pride when our players are called into the national team, Nemanja's with Hungary right now. A lot of our academy players continue to be selected into youth national teams. When teams come and ask for our players, that means we're, credit to the players, always credit to the players, but it also means we're doing something right, and we're contributing to their success. I said this when I announced Pano. My expectation is someday someone will come, and someday it'll be right for him, and I'll be sad when that day comes, but I'll also be I'll have a measure of pride that we contributed to his moving on to some other challenges as well. Although you can wait.
Pano, with last year being in the bottom and this year towards the top, you've kind of been on both sides. How at this point would you?
The top is much better. Next question.
That was not the question. Yeah. How would you explain MLS to someone back from Serbia or someone who's not as familiar with the league? What stands out to the league to you?
Well, I would say there is a great perspective, future, present also, great opportunity to improve yourself improve the circumstances and the sport in this country. I would say the most important of all, I think, it's that actually you guys, you want it. You're here because you care about this sport, and our fans who are every year increasing the number of attendance and everything, they also want it. And this sport is becoming something very important in this country. And for all of us who work in different countries around the world, you see the healthy environment, the healthy and good ingredients for the success, and most importantly for making this sport something which is something that already it is around the world, being the platform for the good values, for everything you may want to make from your life in terms of building your lifestyle around this sport, around this industry, and also to spread the message you want, whatever message you want. And unfortunately, around the world, sometimes they are using the good part of this sport and sending wrong messages. But definitely, I think this is the country and the sport in this country that you can give a lot and improve overall circumstances and overall view of the values of this sport and everything else. So, to resume, it's the best possible place to be, in my opinion, is at this point for all of us who are emerging and who want to share, give, and obviously see when you see the contribution, to see what comes back to you, and which is, I think, the overall satisfaction of contributing.
Nelson, you mentioned the Fair Play Award, and you never know when media is going to get their hands on certain things. And what were your thoughts about what happened at halftime of the Toronto-New York game? And you know, that gets out there, and more people see it, but I don't necessarily think that's good for the league to be seen in that light.
Look, it's a big moment, and you're talking about great competitors, the individuals, the teams, with a lot of pride. I wasn't there. You know, I don't know what happened. I'm a romantic, but I'm not naive. So I know that there will always be challenging moments. I also don't think it should be blown out of proportion. You know, two guys, two teams that really want to win, and something happens. It seems like the league or the officials on the spot have tried to address it. I don't think it's endemic to our league or to those individuals. You know, I think both generally play fair and play hard, to their credit. But it shows the importance of what we're all playing for. You know, we want that Philip Anschutz trophy.
All right, thank you, everybody. We'll wrap up right there, and we'll follow up with individuals in Spanish and probably back up.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.